Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. On today's video, we'll be going over the biggest changes coming to the next patch, being patch point 9.7. And there's quite a few things to cover, so as usual, if you end up enjoying the video or finding it useful or whatever, then don't forget to hit that like button. And this video will be made in collaboration and edited by ProGuides. It's a website that helps you improve your overall League of Legends gameplay and knowledge, and the website now is completely free to use, so now is the time to check it out with the link down below. But let's get right into the actual changes. So the first thing we'll talk about very quickly, which we did mention before, is of course going to be the new Morde icons. One of them being a summoner icon and the other ones being, as you can see, for every single rank, Morde emote icons, which are all going to be rewards for the end of Split 2. Now keep in mind, we are still in Split 1 of ranked, so the fact that they already put up Split 2, like we said before, we're assuming is a mistake, and Riot accidentally leaked the face and the kind of mini visual leak of the new Mordekaiser rework. So let me know down below what you think about the new visual update for Mordekaiser. Moving along, Riot is also doing some pretty significant changes to ARAM. First and foremost, it is now going to be played back on Butcher's Bridge, which in my opinion actually looks a lot better. You can now also ban away champions that you just don't want to face in ARAM in the champ select, obviously. Riot is trying to make it so that there's fewer decided games and fewer drawn out games. There's going to be built-in poke reduction. There's a new summoner spell called Backtrack, which essentially gives you a shield and then pushes you backwards towards your fountain. And the range it pushes you back is much shorter on ranged champions. They're going to have a new item called Mariner's Vengeance, which is essentially ARAM's version of Guardian Angel. And they're also going to be throwing in Ghost Walkers, which was boots that essentially let you walk right through walls, similar to Kane's E ability. Warmock's armor is making a return here as well. And the final thing is they're making some slight adjustments to the runes so that the runes for ARAM, such as maybe Gathering Storm, since ARAM doesn't last that long, will now be much more effective. And on the flip side, runes that are simply too strong early will be nerfed a little bit. But now let's move into the actual changes coming over to champions, and we're going to be starting things off with Azir. Now Azir is finally getting some buffs. His HP regeneration per level is being increased from 0.11 to 0.15, and Conquering Sands' Q ability, the damage is also being increased by 10 at every single rank. I'm sure as you can tell, this isn't the biggest buff in the entire world, but at the same time it's also Azir. That's a champion you have to tread very carefully with, because if you overbuff him, it's going to make him insanely overpowered. Moving along, we also had those Blitzcrank changes I talked about, where he essentially had a new ultimate passive. Well, that's going to be scrapped for now. Apparently, they're not ready to ship that out just yet, so don't expect it to hit the live servers just yet. Moving along, however, we have some buffs coming over to Chogath. Now his Q ability, the cooldown, has actually been lowered by 2 seconds, and that's about it. Now, again, not the biggest buff in the world for Chogath. It's only just a 2-second decrease on his Q ability, but this is actually pretty nice regardless. I mean, this will give him a lot of more power in the laning phase, even more power in wave clear as well, and more power in team fights as well, because once you get CDR, well, the cooldown on that Q ability is going to go down much lower. And Chogath's Q is extremely important in his kit because it essentially sets up everything else, including your allies, to follow in. So it looks like a very simple buff, and it is, but it's also going to be more impactful than it may seem initially. Moving along, however, we finally have some buffs coming over to Dr. Mundo. I bet a lot of people forgot this champion even exists in League of Legends, because I know I did. The buffs are as follows. His Infected Cleaver, which is his Q, the damage is being increased on this ability, so now it just does more % damage of the target's current health across the board, and it's 5% extra at every single rank. That's actually a decent amount. But it doesn't end there, because his E ability, Masochism, also is getting buffed, where the minimum bonus AD ratio has been increased now by 10 at every single rank as well. That right there is surprisingly quite powerful buffs. I mean, Mundo has been out of the game for way too long, and it seems like Riot is trying to force him back into the meta. Maybe this will be enough. It's hard to tell for sure, but this is definitely a pretty big push. Next up, we have some buffs coming over to Garen as well towards his W, Courage, where the cooldown is being lowered, the bonus armor and magic resistance is being increased as well. The bonus max has been increased to 50 from 40, and the duration, however, has been lowered. All in all, this is without question a buff, because now, again, the duration level 1 is actually the exact same, right? It only goes down as you rank it up to a full second less at rank 5. But all this really means is that you have to time it just a little bit better than you did before, because if you do time it better, which it really isn't that hard to do, you're getting a lot more bonuses across the board, more resistances everywhere. All in all, this should be a pretty sweet buff to Garen. Moving along, let's talk about some changes coming over to Kayle. Now, Kayle is arguably the most overpowered champion in League of Legends at the very moment because all you really do is just run Klepto top lane, abuse your E ability, get past the laning phase, get to level 11 where you become a champion, and suddenly you're actually a threat. Riot's way of dealing with this is as follows. Her armor per level is being lowered by 0.5. Her Q ability, Radiant Blast, the mana cost is being increased by 10 across the board. Her W, which is the heal, the movement speed is being lowered, but the mana cost is being changed to where now at rank 1 it's actually less, but as you rank it up, it ends up being more mana by rank 5. And the final thing is a nerf to her E ability to where currently it goes from 10% up to 20% of bonus magical damage based on missing HP. Now it's going to start at 8%, but only go up to 16%, which obviously is a pretty significant nerf, but at least now they have a plus 1% per 100 AP scaling. So in other words, you'll have to get about 400 AP for it to be on par with what it currently is on the live servers before the nerfs. Now, this isn't that bad. I mean, once you actually get the AP, let's say 400 AP, if you manage to get that, you'll actually be doing a lot more damage because not only is it back to essentially being at 20%, but you're also going to have that bunch of extra AP ratio to just make your overall auto attacks and spells do more damage anyways. So in other words, overall, definitely a nerf for Kayle, but if you just go the very heavy AP route, you'll probably be doing more damage late game than you currently do. Next up, we have a quick buff coming over to Leona, where her cooldown has been lowered on her E ability by just a couple of seconds, especially by rank 5 being 3 seconds less. Now, I know most Leonas actually max their W first because the damage is AoE first of all, and second of all, you get a disgusting amount of base resistances. But maybe now people will start opting out for maxing Leona's E abilities first instead, or even at least maxing it out as a second ability rather than their Q. Next up, we have some nerfs coming over to Lissandra, a champion that is just way too consistent and way too powerful in the mid lane, especially with Aftershock. So she's getting some nerfs and definitely deserving so. The nerf is as follows. Her Q ability, Ice Shard. The cooldown has been increased by 4 seconds at rank 1, but only by a full second by rank 5. I mean, you do max this ability first, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you'll get it to rank 5 fairly quickly, but at least the level 1 is going to be less impactful because it's a 4-second increase. And I mean, a full 1-second increase on her level 5 Q, it's okay, but I feel like it's not that big of a nerf regardless. Especially considering the main issue with Lissandra is the fact that she can abuse Aftershock while being a ranged champion, proc it very easily, do a lot of damage, and just not die. But at least this is still technically a step in the right direction. But speaking of very powerful champions, next up we have some nerfs coming over to Morgana. Her HP regeneration per level has been lowered, and her W, Tormented Shadow, the AP ratio per second has been lowered by 2%. Not entirely sure what the HP regeneration per level being lowered is really going to do. I don't really think that's going to change a whole lot, nor do I think the 2% lowered per second AP ratio on her W is going to do that much either. So if you're someone that mains Morgana's support, well, you probably have nothing to worry about. Morgana is still going to be essentially the exact same. But next up, we have some changes coming over to Pike. Now, this is a very aggressive support, so let's see what Riot has done. His Q ability, Bone Skewer, the cooldown has been changed in this ability to now being 2 seconds lower at rank 1, but then evening out to 8 seconds by rank 5. Then his E ability, Phantom Undertow, the stun has actually been increased from 1.1 second to 1.25 seconds. That's actually not that bad. I mean, it's not going to really make him too much more powerful. Again, most Pikes max their Q ability first anyways, and the level 1 buff on his Q in terms of cooldown is only going to really make his level 2 power spike more powerful because you can obviously look for that QE combo, but other than that, I mean, it's not going to be that much better overall. However, the increased in stun duration on his E ability, even though it's only just a fraction of a second, that fraction, even in teamfights, is actually a huge difference between living and dying. So all in all, this is actually one of those buffs where I feel like it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but especially with the E, I think it's going to be a lot more impactful than you may think. Moving along to the next champion, we have some quick buffs coming over to Rumble, where his W's bonus movement speed has been increased and his ultimate's cooldown has also been decreased. I don't really see too many Rumbles at the moment unless they're essentially a Rumble one trick, so maybe this will help that out a bit and make the champion actually meta as opposed to being only for one tricks. But I feel like it's always kind of hard to tell with this champion, so you never really know for sure, but at least this is still technically a step in the right direction for Rumble players. But now the next champion we're talking about is one that's been getting a lot of love and hate at the same time, Sylas. Riot has tried nerfing this guy so many times and he just seems to be still so damn strong regardless. So this round of nerfs is as follows. His base HP per 5 has been lowered. His Q ability Chain Lash, the damage on this has also been lowered as you rank it up to being 20 less damage by rank 5. His W Kingslayer, the damage has also been lowered in this ability to where as you rank it up, it becomes 30 less damage. And then his E ability, the cooldown on this has been increased by a total of 6 seconds at rank 1, but then evening out down to 10 seconds at rank 5. So what does this really mean for Sylas? Well, it seems like number one, his W just got completely gutted. His Q ability also got a little bit of a gut as well. His E ability level 1 got absolutely decimated. 6 seconds is a very long time. So what this means is you have to pretty much max your E ability second now, so Q, E, W. And that right there is just a lose-lose scenario, because even if you still go Q, W, E max, I mean, your E is going to be at a very long cooldown for a long time. So this might actually finally be the nail in the coffin for Sylas. I don't know if this is going to be enough for him to still be considered a good pick at the very moment. Next up, we have some blessed nerfs coming over to Urgot, arguably one of the most overpowered champions in League at the very moment as well, ever since his mini rework. The nerf is going to be towards his E ability, where the cooldown has been increased and the mana cost has been increased, and to his ultimate, where the damage has just been overall lowered. Nothing towards his W, however, which I think is a little bit questionable. I don't think this is enough to bring him down to where he should be, so expect Urgot to still be OP. Next up, some quick changes coming over to items, the first of which being Cinderhulk, where the bonus damage to minions and monsters has been increased by 100%. So it seems like Riot is going to slowly be trying to kind of bring back the tank meta with this small change to Cinderhulk, because there's probably more to follow. Next, we also have some quick nerfs to Dark Seal, where the AP has been lowered by 5. We also have a mini rework coming over to Wit's End, which I do have a full gameplay of. If you haven't checked it out, then definitely do so. Now, costing you 2,900 gold, you'll essentially be getting a lot of attack speed, MR, and movement speed. You'll be getting magical on-hit damage, and you're also going to be healing while below half HP for 33% of the effects on-hit damage, with being 100% for melee champions. A very powerful item that will be abused on champions that auto-attack very often and or that abuse Gwynsu's Rageblade. Some quick changes coming over to runes as well, where Demolish got a buff to where now it's just a bit more powerful. Overgrowth will now give you a bit more HP as well. Cutdown has also been increased in damage as well to champions, which I guess makes sense, because since they're buffing tanks, well, Cutdown needs a buff as well so you can kill them. We have some changes coming over to Ghost Poro, to where now after the ward expires, it becomes a Ghost Poro that just gives you extra damage like usual. But this time you get damage based on every Ghost Poro spawn up to 10. Eyeball collection has been completely gutted in my opinion, to where now I don't think it's even worth even going over, because there's no point in even taking it. And then we have some quick changes to Zombie Ward, where it's essentially the exact same as Ghost Poro, which is also kind of questionable. And we have a quick buff coming over to Ultimate Hunter, to where now gives you 3% rather than 2% CDR per stack. And last but not least, boys and girls, we also have some new skins coming out as well, being Dunkmaster Ivern and Hextech Jarvan, two pretty sexy skins in my opinion. But that right there, guys, is about it for this video. There you have it, a bunch of changes coming to patch 9.7. Let me know what you think about them down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.